Our guest is a leader in an industry where very few women are called founder. And you're going to love her startup and founder journey stories because, hey, it's Fab Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I got to tell you, I'm just like, can I just do this right now to all of you founders out there who are raising your businesses, diving into the woohoos and the rut-rows every single day, solving those problems. I am in awe and wonder of you and all your hard work and passion and purpose. And that's why I'm also grateful that you chose to carve out time and tune in to the Startup Life live show, because as you up your founder game, that's right. As you do better, your business will do better. I want to say a big yoo-hoo. Hi, live viewers. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to pop in comments and questions and engage with each other in the comment threads. That would be lovely. And the replay viewers and podcast listeners, you know how deeply grateful I am for your presence. And I am wishing you continued success with everything that you're learning and growing with. And I know from today's conversation, this will enhance your business and your experience. So if you are watching this video, I'd love it if you clicked on that like button right there by the video. That helps me reach more founders around the world. And for folks who are on the podcast, if you would take a moment and share a rating if you feel called to, or subscribe, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, that would also really help. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, please click that subscribe button and the bell notification so we can, again, reach more folks. And if you'd like to get an alert in advance on who's going to be on the show, so you can do a deeper dive into our guest and what they're bringing to the show and the conversation, please join the Startup Life Live meetup group. We got the bit.ly link in the show notes, but also there's a QR code that you can scan right there to join us and join the group, because I know that you will find these founders, like today's founders, so fascinating. I was going to say some other word there. Let me share a few Ande-licious announcements with you today. As always, please visit Arlen's Academy, where you're going to learn anything and everything you need to know for your business. Honestly, she's the most generous person in the world, and continues to always share great advice with folks. Also, I'm always raving about Scroobius. This is a wonderful platform, very affordable pricing to help you create the best pitch deck and connections and a video pitch deck. And when you visit scroobius.com/pricing, you can receive 15% off first tier pricing when using the promo code Ande15. So go check it out. When I tell you it's affordable, seriously, $20 a month, maybe? I mean, come on. Very, very affordable, and it'll get you to the next level. Plus, you find peer support there. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of what they're doing. If you're in the process of creating an MVP, Founder University has this great 12-week course to help you build that MVP and get your first users. And yeah, they charge $750 for this 12-week course. But if you attend every week and you create an MVP, they're going to give you your money back. How cool is that? And one of my favorite people out there, Hustle Fund, Elizabeth Yin, she's written this great document, How to Raise a Seed Round. And this group of VCs, they're all former founders, so they know how hard you're working, and they're hustlers just like you. So be sure to click the link in the show notes to grab some of this incredible advice from Elizabeth. All right. And I want to just give everybody the big Founder Circle hug right now, because I know what you're going through. And I want to remind you, ask for help, ask for connections, ask for folks to open the door for you so you can be introduced to someone. You can ask even to have some win added to your sales. It's so important to reach out and connect. And also, please be gentle with yourself. There's no training for this. You know that. I know that, right? But every day you're getting better. And, I'm always saying you always win when you launch a business. So be good to yourself. Reach out to me anytime. If there's any advice I can share with you or make any connections for you, let me please have the honor of doing that for you. Okay, so let me introduce the amazing guest that we have on the show today. And this is her business artwork that I'm putting up here so you can get familiar with the company that she has been rocking for almost 10 years. Lauren Salz. She's the co-founder and CEO of Sealed, a home wellness company on a mission to make homes healthy, comfortable, and clean for the planet. Sealed designs, manages, and finances home weatherization and electrification projects, making it easy and affordable for people to be more comfortable while using less energy. And hello, under Lauren's leadership, this beautiful company grew 350% from 2020 to 2022 and was named one of the 10 most innovative energy companies of 2021 by Fast Company. And they just expanded this spring their Series B funding to $45 million in order to accelerate its mission to electrify homes in major markets. Come on, we want to hear it from this fab female founder. Welcome to the show, Lauren Salz.
Thank you so much for having me today, Andy.
So happy. People let me just put Lauren in the big screen. Take a look at this, because we need this representation. You have to understand the climate tech, clean tech world. Seeing a female co-founder is not that frequent. And Lauren and I were chatting about that in the green room before I hit the live button. It's, we need to see more and have more representation. So thank you for joining me on the show today, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Great. And I'm going to say hi to one of our biggest fans here, Brent Ottawa from Ottawa, Canada. He's a diverse person here. And you have a big win to celebrate, Brent. You got 6 new clients as a disability consultant. That's your side gig. Way to go. Yay,
That's awesome.
Yay.
Congratulations, Brent. That's amazing.
That is amazing. And, we just learned this, right? Watching our VP Kamala Harris sit at a table, and she shared with everybody, I'm wearing this blue suit today and this and that, because she was talking to disabled folks. And then she got all sorts of trouble from having done that. This is so important, folks. Whether you're neurodivergent or whatever your disability is you are innovative. I mean, we really need to keep that as a synonymous. Innovation, disability, incredible. And folks, Brent just did what I love for folks to do, is he amplified some good news for himself and his brand. So please share your business name, one-liner, and website URL in the comments, and we will showcase you and your wonderful live work in the world. Okay, so Lauren, honest to goodness, there you were, minding your own business. What happened? What called you to join the startup universe, and have a startup life experience? Because this is not an easy journey. And I didn't see in your background that you had any big experience in clean tech and climate tech. Please share with everyone how you were called to join Sealed as a co-founder and become an entrepreneur.
That's a great question. And I'll say, and I think this is very familiar to a lot of young people, is that I tried so many different internships, jobs. And the one thing I learned from all those experiences was that that wasn't what I was meant to be doing. And that doesn't necessarily help crystallize your path forward, but I knew that the things I was doing weren't the things that I wanted to be doing going forward. But eventually I was working at McKinsey, and I had a mentor there who encouraged me to quit and start my own company. And kind of got some of the ideas flowing. Yes, he wasn't saying that in front of HR, but he was, giving me that advice. And
he must
have great mentor.
He must have noticed something. He must have noticed something about you, Lauren, right? Like, what did he see and sense in you that had him say, you should start your own business?
I think, and I think it's not just him who would say this, I think it's probably my parents, my professors, my teachers, friends, is that I typically go or don't care about conventional wisdom or the way that things should be done. And I always question about why are things the way that they are today and why couldn't they be different? And always
Yeah.
questioning the status quo. And I think that is a trait that's very common among entrepreneurs and people who start companies. Because you have to be able to envision a world that's different in order to make the world a different place.
Oh my gosh. Right. Okay, folks, you know how much I love this moment here. That is a stitch that on a pillow moment. Say that one more time. Envision a better place, please.
I don't know if I can say it again.
I know. I'm going to post. I will find it when I do the replay, and I'll
You'll
put it
have
in
to
there.
find it.
I am the same way, Lauren. Stuff will come out of my mouth. I go, what was it that I said? But you're absolutely right. The ability to envision a better place and bring something that's not even been conceived or conceptualized yet. That is a stitch that on a pillow moment. And I know someone in the audience will have heard that and they'll put it in the comments section for me. But if not, I will put it into the show notes. So you left McKinsey. I mean, folks get paid pretty well at McKinsey. Okay. So you left that steady paycheck behind. What was that like?
I did. I think that it never seemed like the right time to leave your high paying job because every year you'll make more money. You can see the promotion path and where it's going to be leading to. And actually, when I thought about, what my earning power would be in the future of staying in my current role and going up through the ranks there, actually the idea made it actually hard to walk away. And that was the time period in which I said, I actually have to walk away now before it becomes too difficult. Because I think a lot of people, and I have a lot of friends now who are my age and now in my 30s, who kind of get chained in by the golden handcuffs. Your life becomes too good, too easy to leave to start something new. And so I'm glad that I did it earlier on in my career when it was still hard to walk away even then.
Oh, absolutely. One of my mentees, she got a phenomenal job offer from Google. And she's, first generation here in the US from a family of immigrants. And they were like, and she's like, no, I'm going to start a business. And they were like, what have we done wrong? But, it's so important, folks. I think what you just said, Lauren, is so important for many entrepreneurs that, you can be really successful at something that you hate. It's much more important to fail at something you love. So if you're concerned about launching a business, just remember you'll be doing something that feels purposeful every day. Right, Lauren?
Yes. And then actually, I had another mentor at McKinsey. I had a lot of great mentors there, but I had another mentor who said that, never to chase the money. You should chase what you enjoy doing because as long as you can make a living from it, obviously, because, if you chase the money, you'll never be happy. And if you chase what makes you happy and fulfilled, maybe money will come, but if it doesn't, you'll still be happy.
Okay. Thank you. Gonna do a big clap on that. Lauren, you're just filled with amazing sound bites today. I love this. It's excellent, excellent advice. So did you jump in and start your own business or did you decide to co-found with someone your first entry into the startup world?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. I ended up meeting my now co-founder, Ande, on AngelList. I don't know if that's a website that some of your listeners are familiar with, but I ended up meeting him on there after speaking to around 20 other different founders of businesses of various size and industries. And I knew right away when I met my co-founder, Ande, that we should work together. I was, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, and I'm like, why? Tell us more.
Why?
Because a lot of folks are trying to, because this becomes almost like a marriage, folks. You've got to work with this person every single day. And you're with them usually a lot longer than you are with your spouse every day or your partner.
I know. I mean, I think about how much time we've spent together over the past 9 years. It's probably more time than I spent with anyone else in my life.
Right.
So a couple of things. One, I think it was a clear personality match. We intuitively got what the other person was thinking, and we kind of had complementary ways of thinking and complementary skills. And that's actually really enabled us to work really well together for the past 9 years, which is, I think, an unusually long period of time for co-founders to work together. And The second thing is that I was really intrigued by the energy efficiency space, which at the time I didn't know that much about. And what was really intriguing to me about the energy efficiency space, and by the way, climate tech is a very new term. Back then it was called clean tech, and it's
Right.
kind of had to have a rebranding as climate tech over the past few years because clean tech investing 10 years ago didn't go so well. So anyway, back then it was clean tech. But what really interests me about the clean tech space, and specifically what we're doing and what we're focused on today, is that homes make up around 20% of greenhouse gas emissions in the US, which is equivalent to the entire country of Germany.
Yeah.
And the even crazier thing is that the hardware and technology already exists to decarbonize homes, but there was very low deployment. And I thought that was a really interesting problem and question to be solving, and a really impactful one if we were able to solve it. And a problem that
See,
people have been trying to solve for a long time.
yes, we know that in our household at the Lyons Den. My husband Chad has been in renewable energy since he graduated from UC Berkeley in 76, everyone. So I've been hearing a lot about this. But I love that as you interviewed, and we see this a lot today, there's a lot of sites that help co-founders meet each other. You know, folks who want to co-found, want to work with someone else, don't want to do the solo founder experience, which is never easy. And the fact that you were self-aware enough, Lauren, to know that when you met Andy, he had the kind of qualities coupled with what the business was doing, pulled you all together. So now, how long had Sealed been around when you met Andy?
Sealed had been around for around 9 months. And so Andy had been
Okay.
operating by himself. Actually, the previous summer, he had a couple of interns doing data collection. And, we laugh about this now too. And now the company has gotten much bigger. But Andy and I spent so much time in the early days of Sealed figuring out how to get data, doing the data entry ourselves. So the people who predated me at Sealed were some summer interns that he had doing data collection. And so, yeah, and Andy had kind of this thesis about the market and some ideas for a product, but nothing had kind of been developed or launched yet. And kind of, I know this podcast is only an hour, so I'll kind of make the long story short, but we chose a really difficult problem to solve, and we had to go through so many different iterations over the course of over 4 years to find product market fit.
Wow. Okay, everybody. Over the course of 4 years, and this is important to remember, and all that I love bringing this up. So, Lauren, I'm so happy you shared it, which is the fact that this overnight success story mythology needs to stop. Especially when you're building what we like to call a big, hairy, audacious idea and bringing it to market, you're not going to figure it out for years. So how did you and Andy find the capital to keep you afloat during this period of time?
Yeah, well, I'll say we were very fortunate to have great angel investors who backed us in the early days of Sealed before it was clear that Sealed would be a big success. So over the course of those 4 years, we subsisted on around $4 million of angel investor money. And, it's really our early supporters that were, enabled us and were patient enough to get us to the point where we found a product that people wanted to buy.
So I want to talk about this product, because innovation, folks, is how we're going to save the world. All right. We are in a climate crisis, and folks like Andy and Lauren at Sealed are really making a difference. So let me pull this up, and we have all these different images, here. And I know in Massachusetts, we had energy efficiency. I'm in a home that was built in 1959, a ranch house. And boy, when they came by and made this home efficient, boy, it's just amazing how it tightened things up and lowered our energy usage. How does Sealed work? And if we can just start from that 4-year period gathering data, was it because did you already know that you wanted to go into a particular lane, or were you saying, okay, we want to solve this energy efficiency challenge? What lane do we want to be in?
So we knew that we wanted to focus on single family homes. We knew that was our focus. Okay. But the big thing we had to figure out is how to actually drive adoption of people making these home improvements. And that's what we had to do a lot of iteration on. And ultimately what we figured out over the course of that 4 years, and experimenting with different types of products is that the two big barriers were hassle and expense. On the hassle side, people know that they have a problem. They know that their heating and cooling system is on the fritz. They know that one kid is too hot at night, the other is too cold. They know they have a problem, but most people don't even know what the right solutions are to solve these problems, let alone figuring out the best contractor, or in most cases, combination of contractors to actually do the work. And so most people don't even get to the step where they figure out that it's actually really expensive to get this work done. And so what we're focused on doing is making it easy and affordable. But the make it easy part is actually what we had underestimated for a long time.
So make it easy. So was this marketing involved? Was there tech development involved? What was that journey like?
I mean, I'll say everything was involved. I'll say the business we run is an operationally complex one to make it easy. We try to make it easy for the customer, but what's going on at Salz is actually very complex on the back end. Used to make it easy, so we figure out the best set of improvements for each particular home and homeowner. And kind of take away the different decisions that people would have to make. And we say, given what we know about your home and thousands of other homes that look like yours, this is the best solution for you that will drive the best results that you're looking for. And then we figure out also the best contractors to do that specific scope of work. And then we're coordinating the whole thing, because sometimes it takes multiple contractors to get the work done.
That's right. I know from personal experience, because in Massachusetts, you get a credit and they come in, every light bulb is changed, all sorts of things happen. So let's talk a little bit about that customer journey, because you are solving a complicated problem, but you wanted to have a big role, it sounds like, right, at Salz. You wanted to be sort of the overarching umbrella or the general contractor, right, of making all of this happen.
Yeah, I would say that kind of like the service provider, and kind of bundle everything together so it's easy for people. And actually the key reason why people trust us, and this also goes into kind of the affordability part of our product, is that we're actually covering the cost of the installation ourselves, and we only get paid back based on the actual energy reductions. So if the improvements don't work, we're not going to end up making any money.
Oh my gosh. And did you come up with that, or did regulators come up with that?
Oh, Salz came up with that concept.
Come on, yes. That's outstanding. Yeah, and that's a tough revenue model to hold yourself to, right?
It can be if you're not confident in what the performance is going to be. But I mentioned earlier how much time we spent on data collection, data analysis, data cleaning in the early days of Salz, and how long it took us to get to product market fit. We actually needed that data and IP to make our current product work.
Absolutely. And when you say your current product works, so there's, and I'm just envisioning and just trying to get to the bottom of how all of this works. Do you find the customer? Do they come in? What does that customer acquisition look like?
Mm-hmm. So, sometimes we find the customer, sometimes the customer finds us. So some people hear about us through friends and family, neighbors, or, we publish a lot on our website about different types of home improvements you can do to make your home more comfortable. So that's one way. People can also hear about us through their utility. And also a lot of people hear about us on social media, on YouTube. Those are some of the other channels we advertise on as well.
And so do you feel like you're a B2C?
We're definitely a B2C company.
Okay.
Yes.
And I ask that because, folks, a lot of times, like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, they have an initiative. So they provide, they tell you, they send the flyers, whether it's National Grid or somebody will send the flyers to your home, and they'll give you a list of folks you can use. Salz, it's my understanding, Lauren, decided you wanted to create a nice revenue building, product and technology where you were the National Grid.
Correct. Yes. So, and also we're not saying to customers, here's a list of 10 people you can call who can help you figure out, and then you have to sort through what the best quotes are. We do all that work for the homeowner so that they don't have to do all the research. And if you think about it, a homeowner, they're only going to get one of these types of upgrades every, 10, 20 years. And so they're not experts on it, and they shouldn't be. And so that's where we come in, because it's very hard to decide. You might get, 5 different quotes, they're different prices, but they're all for different scopes of work. And it can be very difficult for someone to ascertain on their own what's the best fit for their particular home and their circumstance.
That's right. And so when the customer connects with you and comes in, you take care of them from start to finish. You send someone to their home
Exactly.
for an evaluation.
So almost the entire thing is done remotely. The customer is giving information about their home online through our website. They're providing their energy usage. They're taking photos of their home. So all that happens before we design the scope of work, which is entirely done remotely.
So if you've got a 4-bedroom home, right, 2-story, what happens then? So they give you all this information, what year it was built, which probably tells you what kind of construction that is. Our poor little ranch home was like a sieve. But
and that's a very common story. Yeah. So yeah, and the typical improvements we're recommending. So almost everyone needs air sealing and insulation, and that's what people need to keep themselves cool during the summer and warm during the winter, making sure they're not wasting energy. Paying to heat the outside basically. And then some customers who have more outdated heating and cooling systems, that's when we recommend improvements there. And in particular, we love to get people on heat pumps, which is if you're not familiar with it, very efficient combined heating and cooling technology.
We've been thinking about that for a while. And same with, we're on electric for water. Oh, what a difference our life is. I mean, especially if you're with teenagers in the house who just think they're going into the shower for forever. And you're like, oh boy,
Right.
I just did the dishwasher. I'm totally screwed now. If I want to take a shower, it's never a problem anymore. So you help bundle up, you give all these different services, and then do you provide financing for the customer? Because this sounds like a big chunk of change, kind of like when you do anything, like those solar panels that are going on people's homes, you got to pay for those as well. What is that like, and how does Sealed make it a great experience and help them take the sting out of that level of investment in their home?
So Sealed covers the entire upfront cost of the improvements. So that's not something that the customer has to worry about. And then we only get paid back over time if there's an actual energy reduction. And we are plugging into the customer's utility to measure that on a monthly basis. And we show them what the results of the project are.
Okay. So you're the one in control of, this is where you're saving money. You're not sitting there waiting for them to get that info to you.
Exactly.
And so I'm trying to understand the revenue model. And folks, as you know, lots of founders, side hustling founders, folks who are thinking of launching a business, especially in the climate tech world, these are questions they're asking themselves. So that's why I'm diving deep in with Lauren, because this is going to give folks tuning in this category, in this industry, some aha moments as they understand how Sealed did it. So when you say you finance, because I'm thinking about what the investors would have been saying, and you've raised a lot of money. So I'm thinking they're going, how are we going to get paid back here? how explain the revenue and the pricing and how that works, please.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we are evaluating how much energy will get reduced from these improvements. And from there, we're able to come up with a financial package that works for both the customer and for Sealed. And, Sealed, when we are saying that we're going to cover the cost of this project, it's because we feel confident that the payback is going to be there for Sealed.
Great. And great. So the customer is the one who is paying you back.
Correct.
Right.
Over time.
Over
then,
time. So,
over time.
Yeah. So you're not only providing this is just a one and done experience, which I just love. We're going to finance this for you. We have local contractors in your area that have made it through our filter system. So we know they're going to deliver to you. And we've got the products. If you need the little thermostats, all of the lights, everything, we're coming in and we're doing it for you. And your upfront challenge is to say yes, right, to the customer.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And we're just trying to really make these improvements a no-brainer because they are for most people if they can get to this step where they're evaluating everything.
Right. And so what is the one thing that the customer, and this is probably as you learned, as you got into the market, your customers started to inform you and on how better to give them a great experience. What did you learn when you first launched? And what territory did you go into, or what region?
So our first territory was New York State, and we kind of started in the New York metro area and we branched out from there. And actually, until around 12 months ago, we were exclusively in New York State. And then since then, we've expanded to 4 more states.
Excellent. That's hence the growth, which I
Hence the growth,
love.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so when you launched and your customers were like, let me see, do I want to say yes? You knew when you launched that you were going to be the one who financed it, that provided all the products, pulled all this together. What did the customers tell you when you launched that helped you improve on your services and products?
I'll say like one of the areas that we iterated a lot on is the actual customer buying experience being important to people. So actually, originally, we didn't do everything remotely. We were knocking people's doors as a go-to-market strategy. We were going into people's homes, sending a home energy advisor into the home themselves. And, it was working, but it wasn't entirely convenient for homeowners because they might have had to take a morning off from work. This is, before the days where a lot of people work from home.
Yeah.
It was just a lot more hassle in their schedule. It took multiple trips to come out. And the biggest point of feedback we got is like, I just need this to be easier. I don't want to have to take time off from work. I just want to be able to talk to you on the phone, and also really have a digitally first experience until the point of needing to talk to someone to get a proposal for the work.
I love that. So you and Andy probably in the team just sat down and said, okay, we got to noodle this remote thing. How do we make this happen?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was back in late 2017. So that was before it was what it is
Right.
today, kind of, during the pandemic era. And the other thing too that was happening at the time in 2017 is that, there was a bunch of public solar companies at the time, and they were really getting a lot of flack in the public markets for their customer acquisition strategy, which was very door to door. And there was very high cost of customer acquisition. And so we thought, is this how we want to model our customer acquisition, or should we look to other industries that maybe do it better and see if we can figure out a similar model? So what we looked at is actually the B2B SaaS way of selling with inside sales teams. And I don't know if you've read the book, Predictable Revenue, but it's about kind of Salesforce's way of selling and what worked and didn't work. And I know that's a system that a lot of companies use today.
I love it. What's the name of the book?
Predictable Revenue.
Okay, folks, I'll have the link to that in the show notes because we're always looking for a good resource like that. Thank you. No, I do not have that on my shelf or on my e-reader. So that's a great tip. But you also, this became a really crowded space, especially after all the wonderful initiatives that came out of the Obama administration, where grant money was available, non-dilutive capital, which we all love as startups. How were you able to differentiate yourself? Was it the remote aspect? And what other ways were you differentiating yourself from other companies that were providing maybe not the full package, but similar products and services?
So I'll say there haven't been a lot of companies who are providing a similar product and service to us. We operate in a very fragmented market. There's a lot of kind of like local mom and pop contractors who are doing this type of work, but there's not actually another company out there right now that's bundling everything together and providing the same type of service that we are today. And I'll say that while, climate tech is, becoming a growing space, I definitely wouldn't call climate tech crowded at all. I think there's room for a lot more players in the space, certainly.
Hooray. And for my global founders who are in the midst, Africa, Europe, et cetera. And this is great news for you as well. There's room for you, but also for the US founders. It's wonderful to see that. I'm just going to bring up Richard O's comment. We were talking about innovation will save the world. Yes. How you doing, Richard? Oh, so happy to see you. And 73.ad. What a fascinating name. Thank you for your fine comment. Great show, Ande and Lauren. I want to remind any founders that are tuning in, this show gets viewed by thousands of folks and the podcast listened to by hundreds. If you've got a startup you want us to know about, pop it into the comment threads with your URL, your one-liner. So, because sometimes the name doesn't tell you what the business does, and the name of your business. And Lauren and I will celebrate your work in the world. So, Lauren, let's talk about raising capital. Now, I know you have a male co-founder, so it makes it a lot easier, but we talk a lot about this on the show for folks who are not white male, what it's like to raise capital. We know the stats. Those stats have been around there forever. I'd love for you to share, because since you came into the company in 2013, the company has raised a total, according to Crunchbase, one of my favorite resources, but correct me if I'm wrong, 83.5 million?
$62.5 million.
62.5 million since
$62.5
inception.
million.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That is a lot of money on many levels. And so there's a few questions I'm going to have, because sometimes when you raise that kind of capital, all of a sudden it's like, the pressure is on, my runway is short. Oh my gosh. It depends, of course, who you raise it from. But we also want to talk about what it's like when you're in front of the room, in front of investors, and you're raising that capital or via video chat, and the kind of questions that you have received. So take us through the process, what you learned. So the first question is, what did you learn the first time you started raising capital for the company? What did you see as far as bias? And how did you feel when the big chunk of change came in and now you're under the gun for getting things done?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's hard to speak to bias or not bias, because I don't know the counterfactual of what these raises would have been like if I were a man. But I will say that, I think every founder always feels a little bit nervous before launching a fundraise. The one thing I do think that is important about fundraisers is a couple of things. Is one, actually, most of the hard work gets done before the fundraise. I always made sure that we had all the materials ready to go. So then when you go out to raise money, you can do it expediently. You don't want to be caught in a situation where you start having conversations, and then you're not actually ready to go through the diligence process, or you don't have all the data about your company that investors are going to be looking for. So actually the preparation process, like typically I take at least 2 months before launching a raise, just to make sure all the materials are in order and buttoned up. Kind of like go slow to go fast.
Excellent. I'm just going to pop in to the listeners and viewers. If you want a list of the best questions that you're going to get from investors so that you can be prepared, like Lauren's saying, and a list of the best questions to ask investors, like check size, how long does it take to get fund, all of those important things. Please ping me, Ande@andelyons.com, and say, send me those investor questions. Because this is what Lauren is saying. She was prepared. She and Ande were prepared before they went out. And you're the CEO. So as your role, were you primarily involved with the funding, or both you and Ande would always make the presentations?
So once I became the CEO, which is I think September 2018, so almost 4 years ago, I was the primary person running the fundraisers, out in front, meeting investors. Back then it was in person, but really running the whole process from start to finish. And then, of course, sometimes during the process, investors like to meet your team as well. But yes, this is one of my primary areas of focus. And I'll say, when thinking about the role of a startup CEO of a company that's kind of in scaling mode, this is kind of like the number one non-negotiable of your role and responsibility that you cannot delegate to others.
Wow. This fundraising part.
Correct. Yes. Because I think especially, I mean, maybe it's different when you get to like the much later stages. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't been there yet, but I think at the early stages, at the scaling stages, people really expect that the CEO is going to be the one to talk about not only the mission and vision of the company and where you're going long term, but to have a deep understanding of what's happening on the ground today and how your company works. People really expect to hear from you, not from your team members.
Right.
And so
that is
like,
key.
but I'll say, to be successful at it, I also think that you have to enjoy doing it. I love speaking to investors. I'm so proud of the work that Sealed is doing. I'm also a numbers person, so that part comes naturally to me as well. I'll say one thing that was true for me, especially in the early days of me being the CEO, was that I didn't have a great network of investors that I already knew. And I actually think that's where a lot of underrepresented founders sometimes run into challenges, because you just, don't know the right people to. And it's very hard to get a meeting with a VC if you don't have a warm intro.
That's the truth. And that's why we often talk about this, Lauren, on the Startup Life Live show, social capital being more valuable than financial capital, right? Being able to make
the
those
social
phone calls.
capital helps you get the financial capital. And it can be
Exactly.
difficult. I was a very young founder. I was a young CEO. And building up that network takes a lot of time.
Wow. And what did you find when you started making those presentations? We have a wonderful local person here who wrote this great book called First Pitch, and she dove deep into the bias. Also, we have another local journalist who wrote, Launching While Female. Okay. Phenomenal book, everybody. And talking about the challenges. So here you were, you're young, and you didn't have the social capital yet. And the company was giving you as this co-founder, charging you with, you got to go make it happen, because we're not going to be able to move forward without this capital, especially in such a highly capital intensive business like yours. What did that feel like? And when did you notice that you started getting comfortable? Because you said you really like doing it, but I'm sure initially you were going, what am I supposed to do here?
Yes, I think I felt very nervous about it. It's a lot of responsibility, and I knew that the company needed the capital to grow. And it was my first time attempting to raise institutional capital. And for me, what I've noticed, and this is like true in every single fundraise, is the hardest part is getting started and having your first conversation. Typically, once I have that first meeting as part of the fundraise, then I'm like, oh yes, I do like doing this. I like pitching. I like talking about the company, and I can handle these investor questions and conversations. But it's the materials prep and kind of kicking off that first conversation for me is what's hard and what's scary. And once I'm in it, I'm like, oh yes, this is totally fine. I'm enjoying it.
That's wonderful advice and a terrific insight, Lauren. Founders, your business better than anybody. And I'm sure that's what you found. So when they start hitting you with the heavy questions, you were like, I got this. And especially because as you said, your love of numbers and data and background information and your ability to express what they needed to hear was something that you're also very confident and competent at. So that's tremendous. I'm just going to do a quick, let everybody know, we've been talking about customer acquisition, folks, and I'm sure Lauren and her team talk about this a lot, which is the LTV CAC ratio. And this really helps you understand your marketing return on investment. If you're sitting there scratching your head, LT what? CAC what? I have a great video on my YouTube channel. Please go watch it. I make it really easy. I give you all the formulas and help you calculate that, because that is an important question, right, Lauren, from the investors
Absolutely.
that you often hear?
That is definitely a question that you will get, at least at kind of the Series A phase and beyond. I think seed investors aren't as focused on that.
And how did you find aligned investors? Because that can be challenging, because especially when everybody's looking at you like, Lauren, we need the money. Like yesterday, we got payroll coming up. Hello. I mean, how do you not just say, thank you, write the check, wonderful, versus, will you be good for our company? And did you go to VCs at a certain point, or did you stay with angels?
So the majority of our funding today is through institutional investors, through venture capitalists. And, I think when looking for capital, you have to make sure that it's the right partner. And look, I think Sealed has been very fortunate that we typically have our choice of capital partners to work with. And I know this is like easy. It's an easy thing to say, make sure you find an aligned partner, but sometimes you just need the money. right? Like sometimes like you might be going through like a tough raise, and some entrepreneurs are not going to have a choice of capital providers. But I'll say, like, here's my philosophy on finding the right capital providers. You do need to be aligned on a variety of fronts. So one, you want to make sure that the major investors are going to be backing you, understand and are experienced in your type of business for a couple of reasons. One, they should know what they're getting into. And two, you want them to be value add and helpful and not just, a way to fund the growth. And I think that's where, we've been very fortunate to have investors who are both understand our business and business model really well, but also are mission aligned and are investors who are specifically focused on decarbonization.
Key, what Lauren just said, everybody, key. So know your industry, find the players in this industry that can be aligned with you so that when you are doing your board meetings, because when you're raising at the level that Lauren and her co-founder Ande raised at, you got a board,
Yes.
right? And before I get talking about the valuations and the cap table, talk a little bit about how you manage your board, because when you have say that number again, how many millions?
$62.5 million.
$62.5 million that you've raised. There's a lot of parts and pieces. Thank goodness for the attorneys and the accountants, right? But you as the founder have to understand your cap table. You have to understand governance as you go and you expand like this. So Lauren, talk a little bit about how you and Ande manage your board and how many of the board members are actually investors.
Yes. So my philosophy in board management is that your board members should never be surprised when you get to a board meeting. You should never be surprising anyone with new information about the company that they don't already know. And that, typically the way boards are structured is you have a quarterly board meeting, but you should have plenty of touch points in between the formal board meeting where you're keeping your board up to date on the problems and also success stories of the company. Because at the board meeting, you actually really want to be focused on talking about the strategy and the future of the company and the ways that your board members can add the most value, rather than them being kind of, death by update on various, minutia of the company.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm laughing over death by update. I have not heard that, and I love that. That's Andelicious information right there. And also, what Lauren's talking about, everyone, is that you're just sending the information out in a way that's easy for them to digest, so that when they do sit down and do you do it monthly or quarterly for your board meeting?
We have quarterly board meetings, but then
Excellent.
We have monthly board calls in between. But, for the board meetings, and this is something I didn't know as a first-time CEO, is you send the materials out in advance, and then you give people enough time to review the materials so that the board meeting itself can be mainly a discussion rather than a presentation.
Yes.
It's not actually a board presentation. It's a board discussion that's informed by written materials that everyone has reviewed in advance.
Okay. And founders who are really looking at global domination, please take this in, this governance, this ability to understand how to manage your board, how to make sure that you as the leader, have this group of folks who can get a little pesky sometimes, right? They can go, well, what are you doing with this? And why is that? And I just read in this update that this happened. You have to be prepared. They've got a lot of money in the game. So when you have, when you're getting millions of dollars, I have seen founders literally shut down because, everybody goes for the raise. We raised this many million and that many million. And everybody's like, woo. But at the end of the day, now they've got to execute and implement and do what they say that they were going to do for the use of funds. Right, Lauren? So talk a little bit about what that stress looks like and how you and Ande were able to manage it. What did you do as far as really understanding how you were going to deploy those funds?
So I think it's really important to get the right team in place. Startups are a team sport. It's not just about 2 founders or 3 founders or however many you had. It's really about building a team around you who's going to execute on the vision. And, different stages call for different amounts of, team members and different types of team members. And where Salz is at today is we're in scaling up mode. And so, I a lot of the way I spend my time when I'm not actually raising capital is on building the team. That's probably my second most important job.
Excellent. I love that. And staying with the capital raise for just another minute or two, talk about valuation. Okay. And of course, right now, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous out there. VCs have to deploy capital, folks, but because of what's going on economically around the world, they're going to leverage this opportunity to get a better deal on valuation. But what did you learn about valuation, Lauren, during this process? Early in more lucrative days, from the 2013 to 2018 period, but then during your most recent raise in April and May, you raised a significant amount of money.
So, I'm out of VC, and I'll say like I don't have also like a market view of evaluations or how much Sealed is worth or isn't worth. But I'll say like philosophically, the way I view valuation is like it's just a moment in time, right? About how many shares you're going to sell and for what price. And there's obviously factors like dilution, and you want to kind of protect your current investors and your employees' ownership levels. But ultimately, the most important thing is that the company has the capital to grow and fulfill its mission. And not to be so hyper valuation focused, either like the number from a vanity perspective or be overly focused on dilution, because ultimately like you want to grow the pie bigger and just have a bigger, more impactful, successful company that way.
Yeah.
And I think that the quality of the investor is much more important than the valuation. And when faced with having multiple options, really think closely about who you want to partner with, as long as like the valuations are within spitting distance.
Okay, I'm having the delicious moment, everybody. Folks, don't get hung up on the valuation. This is outstanding advice from Lauren. It is the quality of the investor. I know there are numbers thrown, we want 10 times our money back, and VCs can be really hardball players. So that's why get the quality aligned investor. This will not be so much of an issue. Thank you, Lauren, for that. And one more question regarding capital raise, the cap table. This is something that folks think, oh, I'll give a 1% to this person, 5% here. But as you raise more money, folks, you have to have everybody on the same page for your cap table. And you don't want to be giving equity away in such a way that now when investors like the larger VC companies that are coming in for your Series A and Series B raise, and I know you may have just hung out your shingle, right? You're just starting, but you've got to always be thinking about the horizon, where you're going to be when you're getting the scaling and growth that you want to have, and the Series A and Series B coming in. So what did you learn about the cap table and like when you first started out and where you are today, Lauren?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the stuff I have learned actually from having really great corporate counsel. Actually, we've been with the same partner, same corporate counsel for our entire company history. I think some of my just like biggest learnings about cap table generally is that if you're planning on raising venture capital, you just don't want to do anything that's non-standard that people won't have seen before. That's where you can really lean on other founders and your corporate counsel for that, because you just don't want anything weird that's going to raise eyebrows.
Thank you. I know I'm really picking your brain here and using you as a teaching moment. And I really, really appreciate it because you've seen it and you've done it. What does success look like over the next, where does you see Sealed as the CEO and the person implementing the vision? You're in so many states right now. Do you see yourself going national and then global? What's the plan?
So I think, over the long term, we will be an international company. I don't know that we'll be a global company in every single country, but I think we'll be an international company that's one of the driving forces behind decarbonization of homes.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, folks, what happens when Mia Voss comes by and says hello. So she says she's been lurking in the background and picking up all the great info and loves the mission behind Sealed. And she absolutely loves the solid advice on the governance and handling board. So thank you for that. And yes, startups are a team sport for sure. And Lauren knows what her priorities are. for her business. But because I have Mia up, folks, I got to promote Mia's amazing podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About with Mia Voss. Go check it out on all your podcast platforms. Phenomenal conversations. That's right, about the shit we don't talk about. And I know you've got questions and ideas for that, but nobody brings it and does it in such a beautiful, delicious way like Mia Voss. So please hop on Spotify, entertain yourself while you're folding laundry, for crying out loud, because Mia has
That
the
is a
best
great
guests.
title. That is a great
Yay.
title for a podcast.
And Mia, don't you get that validation when I promote this, your podcast? Everyone says that. So yay. Yay, Mia Voss. Okay, so let's move on to you and what you have learned from being an entrepreneur. I mean, this journey has, I'm sure, enhanced you both personally and professionally. Share with us what that actually looks and feels like.
It's really surreal, and I don't know it any other way than to have this job. But I'll say, to your listeners, and I think the top thing that I have learned from being an entrepreneur is to ask for advice and shared experiences from others. And that's really how to kind of, condense your learning curve and learn faster and do things better. And I actually think one of the big mistakes I made in the earlier days of Sealed is not asking for help or advice. So I thought I had to figure everything out myself. And over the course of the past 4 years, actually, since I've been the CEO of Sealed, I've made a really proactive attempt to build up my network of other founders and CEOs to ask for advice, because most problems that Sealed faces are not unique to Sealed, and other people have faced these same problems and issues before.
Oh, brilliant. Yay on that. And I'm sure as a woman in an industry that doesn't have many opportunities to call female founder or female co-founder, how has this helped you in that level of confidence and you're being able to step into your authority in an industry where you are surrounded by a lot of men?
I'm definitely surrounded by a lot of men in my industry. It's interesting and ironic, but I think one of the things that gave me a lot of confidence in being a woman in this space, kind of in a VC-backed company in climate tech, that actually I raised our Series B when I was 9 months pregnant. And that process went really well and smoothly. And I think just kind of validation of what I'm doing.
Okay, hold on. We have to take that in. I'm going to tell Christy Pitts about this. She's a partner at Backstage Capital, and she just launched a show called Moms at Work, but talking about how do you raise money when you're 9 months pregnant. Oh my gosh, Lauren, that's a whole nother show. Can't go there, but because I could, but I won't. That's really remarkable. Women representation right here. And what was the response? And you're out there 9 months pregnant and you're closing on this deal. What were the investors saying?
I mean, I'll say the deal closed. And actually I was very it was something that I was very nervous and self-conscious about, to be honest.
Yeah, sure.
But then, ultimately I'll say the investor that we ended up, closing with, Fifth Wall, he was also a new parent for the first time within the past few months. So actually he was very empathetic, and understanding, but also it didn't cause him to doubt my abilities as a CEO.
Oh, love that. Okay, everybody, we hear the horror stories, but we don't hear these kind of great stories that Lauren just shared. So hooray. Thank you so much for sharing that. And on those days over the last 9 years at Sealed, when you did have moments, because it's not if, it's when you did have those moments of feeling just, oh my gosh, I feel inadequate. So many disasters, 4 years of trying to figure out the numbers and product market fit. What technique, what mindset hack worked best for you, Lauren?
Yes. So I have something very specific that I use for anxiety in life and at work. So everything is I let myself imagine the worst case scenario and kind of go through all the details of all the bad things that could happen and what happens if the company fails. And then just realizing that everything will still be okay. My family will still love me. I'll be able to find and get a different job and support my family and just run through the worst case scenarios, accept that it's a possibility, and then kind of move on.
Oh, I love that something fierce. Thank you, Lauren, for joining me today. I know I really scraped everything out of you. I really was mining the gems from your incredible female co-founder journey, especially in the climate tech space. Any last thoughts for folks before I pop you in the green room and wrap up our conversation?
I would just say that being an entrepreneur is a really hard job, but it's also really, really fulfilling. High highs, low lows, and you really have to love what you're doing. And you know, I won't give the advice to never give up because sometimes it is time to give up. But if you have strong conviction about something, um, you should listen to that.
Oh, I love that something fierce. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to pop you into the green room. I'm so delighted you were willing to come on the show and share your brilliance with all of us today. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed it.
So good. Oh my gosh. I know I went deep on a lot of the tactics, strategies, all the little parts and pieces that happen when you're raising significant amounts of capital and you're in a big, hairy, audacious, capital intensive business. And Lauren was just the absolute best guest in the world to have on the show to help us with that. So I'm grateful for your presence, for her time. I do not have the artwork up for some reason, but let me tell you who's going to be here on Tuesday, August 2nd. This is a woman who loves to make history, or as we like to say as women, herstory, right? She is Sanchia Deck, and she first made history by being offered the highest paid contract in women's football history. That's right. She's a female football player. And then she's made more history a second time when she added successful startup founder and CEO to her long list of wins when she launched her shoe company, Tronus, and became the first female athlete to own a shoe company. So how do you get a notification whenever I post a new show with all the details about the great founders we're interviewing here on the Startup Life Live show? You join the Startup Life Live meetup group. Come on over there, check it out. I'm here usually every Tuesday and Friday at 12 p.m. sharing the Startup Life journey. We don't glorify it here, okay? It's all about bringing the goods and the real stories from these amazing founder experiences. Until next time, I'm cheering you on. You've got this. You're amazing. You always win when you launch a business, no matter what happens. I'll see you next time. Mwah. Thanks again for tuning in. Cheers.